CBS News has obtained an internal intelligence bulletin shared with federal law enforcement as well as state and local governments ahead of Election Day. It warns of a heightened threat environment. The intelligence is all the more concerning given the attack on Speaker Pelosi's husband. CBS News Chief National Affairs and Justice Correspondent Jeff Pegues joins us now. Jeff, this bulletin talks about the possible targeting of two distinct groups, election workers and public political figures. Break it down for us.
Yeah, it is, Catherine, a fairly lengthy document in terms of these bulletins that, as you know, we see periodically. And what these are about is getting the information from federal law enforcement to local and state law enforcement. And then in this case, what we have is federal officials concerned about really the next 14, 20 days, maybe longer than that, that these domestic violent extremists, DVE violence, includes, potentially targeting candidates running for public office, elected officials, election workers, political rallies, political party representatives. And what they're saying in that statement is over the next several days, you will have these candidates out and about. This is the final stretch of campaigning. And so what law enforcement is warning here is that they are potential targets based on the amount of threats that law enforcement is seeing out there. So the other aspect of this is something that we've seen really since 2020, and this increase in threats against election workers. Any sort of election worker that has been connected or is involved in any kind of counting of disputed votes. There are 7 states that had disputed elections in 2020. And so the concern is if after these midterms there continue to be conflicts over the vote, then you could have election workers again targeted in the wake of the midterm. So while there aren't a lot of specifics in this document, Catherine, it does give local and state law enforcement things to look for and things to be prepared for should something happen where they live.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, do you also agree that in this intelligence bulletin, there's a unique emphasis on lone offender or lone wolf attacks?
Yeah, and as you know, those are the kinds of attacks that are perhaps most problematic for law enforcement. Why? Because it's one person. It's one person typically not operating in a group. And what I mean by that is that they're hard to stop. They're hard to spot. Oftentimes you'll have federal law enforcement saying that, hey, if you see something, say something. Because when you have these individual actors planning for violence, sometimes it's hard for law enforcement to spot. Now, they do. In a lot of cases, they pay attention to what's happening on social media. But there is, of course, such a thing as free speech. So there's very little they can do unless they see someone online threatening some sort of violence and then taking steps to reach that goal. So there are several things, as you know, that law enforcement is concerned about leading up to and after these upcoming midterm elections.
Jeff Pegues, thank you.